Hello everybody and welcome back to yet another Logan Blackman Show YouTube video. I'm excited to be here today because every single video we upload, we are just getting that much closer to football season. The Hall of Fame game was last Thursday. We have got preseason NFL action this weekend. We have got college football coming. Week 0, Iowa State versus Kansas State in Ireland is on August 23rd. That's not that far away. It is ridiculous how fast everything's going because it just feels like we just watched the national championship game. It just feels like we just watched the Super Bowl. It just feels like we watched the draft. Like, all of these different things have happened since, and it's just moving so freaking fast, and I love it. I'm excited for it, and in this video, I thought it'd be fun to look at, because we've already done, like, the top 10 quarterbacks going into the 2026 NFL Draft. We did that pretty much right after the 2025 NFL Draft, and you can go check out a link to that video down below, or I'll link it somewhere on the screen for you if you want to do that as well. But I thought it'd be fun to look at each Power 4 conference, because, you know, the Pac-12 is not a Power conference anymore, so it's no longer Power 5, it's Power 4 conference. But I thought it'd be fun to look at each Power 4 conference and figure out who the top 5 quarterback prospects are for each of those conferences. So I just want to reiterate, this is not something like just ranking them off of their collegiate abilities or who's the best college quarterback. No, I'm trying to envision what the draft class will look like for next year and kind of figure out which conference has the best quarterbacks, I guess you could say. And this video is kind of coming off the back of the Archie Manning thing, where he came out and said that Arch Manning will not be going to the 2026 draft. He will be back at Texas. So that kind of changes the SEC a little bit. The entire landscape of the NFL draft, I guess you could say, is really changed by that. And Lord knows if that stays true throughout the course of the college football season, because anything's possible. Like, Arch Manning could decide just all on a whim that he is going to go to the NFL this year. It's like, yes, Grandpa's saying one thing, but if I'm feeling some other way about it, then I will go to the NFL. But all in all, it's an exciting time, and it's an exciting time for college football, exciting time for everything else. And as you've known throughout the past couple years, just a little announcement as well. We will have our State of Iowa preview. We've been doing that for the past 2 or 3 years now. We'll have those coming out here shortly, and I'm very excited for those. I just finished writing up the notes for those videos, so I hope you guys are ready for that. So make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss that. We'll also have the AFC and NFC season previews coming up after that. So again, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you like this video already, make sure to give it a thumbs up. But if you're not a trusting individual, I respect that. Wait till the end of the video, give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to check out all the links down in the description below and leave a comment down below on how you feel about each quarterback ranking. If you feel like I left somebody out, if you feel like someone should be ranked above somebody or below somebody, like, just let me know down in the comments below. But let's just get it started. Let's get it started, and we're just going to go in alphabetical order pretty much. So we're going to start off with the ACC, and coming into this one is kind of an interesting one because at number 5 on this list, I have Miller Moss, who obviously transferred in from USC this offseason and got benched for Jaden Maeva, I think, after week 9 or something this past season. Miller Moss is a very interesting prospect because I wasn't really the biggest fan of his going into last season, but I thought the vision of, like, having him play with Lincoln Riley and seeing what he did with all these other quarterbacks before. We got Caleb Williams, Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray. You even look at Spencer Rattler. Like, there were quarterbacks that he had worked with, and you're like, okay, this system is going to be a successful thing for Miller Moss. But in the first year of the Big Ten, one thing the Big Ten prioritizes in a lot of these different situations is defensive play, and USC notably, or kind of infamously, I guess you could say, is one of the worst defensive teams in college football. That was that way in the Pac-12, and it carried that way into the Big Ten, and Miller Moss had some ups and downs. He's not the most toolsy quarterback out there. He's not going to break off massive gains on the ground. He's not going to throw an absolute laser beam down the middle of the field, but he's very accurate. He works really well with timing. He's not necessarily the biggest guy in the world, but that timing and accuracy can work out, and he can make plays with his legs when he needs to. It's not, again, he's just not bringing off those massive run plays, but he can navigate the pocket well. He doesn't really fold that much under pressure, just battle a lot of inconsistencies while at USC, and I'm excited to see what he does at Louisville. When you look at the Braun brothers there, and you look at what they did at Purdue with Aiden O'Connell, you see what they did this last year with Tyler Shuck. Miller Moss feels like the type of guy that could work really well in this offense. They do a lot of under center, they do a lot of play action stuff. I think that could really suit Miller Moss's skill set, and he could be higher on this list, but right now I've got him at 5. Coming in at number 4, I have Eli Holstein from Pittsburgh. Battled some injuries, battled some consistency issues last year, but he's got the size you're looking for, about 6'4", about 230, 235 pounds, is a good athlete as well. And when I'm talking about the consistency factor of this, you look at the first 5 weeks of the season for Pittsburgh. He had 3 touchdowns in every one of those games. That's 15 touchdowns for those of you who can't do math, the greatest out there. And he also only had 3 interceptions. So 15 touchdowns, 3 interceptions through the first 5 games of the season. And after that, he had 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Placement and decision making are two things that he's definitely going to need to work on. But from a physical tool standpoint, also putting up around 300 rushing yards as well, and with that bigger frame that he has, working in this offense that Pittsburgh has, that we saw with Pat Narduzzi, not the offense, he's obviously a defensive guy, but Pat Narduzzi at Pittsburgh with Kenny Pickett before that, like, he can do some good things here. And if he stays healthy, if he gets the placement down, if he gets the consistency figured out and doesn't have that massive drop off where we see 15 touchdowns through 5 weeks and 2 the rest of the season, then I think Eli Holstein could definitely be a guy that is on the top tier, not the top tier, but in that middle ground, or I guess, yeah, the top tier in regards to the ACC for quarterbacks going into next year's draft. And number 3 on this list is a guy that didn't turn the ball over really at all, had a massive dip in regards to turnovers, and that's Haynes King at Georgia Tech, formerly of Texas A&M. He's one of the most experienced quarterbacks in this draft class. This will be his 6th year of college football, and if you look at his numbers from last year to the season prior, yes, his touchdowns are down. He had 27 touchdowns the year before. He had 14 this past year, but if you look at the interceptions, 16 down to 2. Like, that is just a massive improvement. He also had 11 rushing touchdowns. He has 21 rushing touchdowns over his 2 years at Georgia Tech. He also had around 500, 600 yards rushing, and he's just a gamer. Like, he doesn't go down at first contact. He's a bigger dude as well, about 6'3", 230 pounds, and he gets yards when you don't think that a lot of quarterbacks out there would really fight for those types of yards. He's just an absolute gamer, and he battled an injury last year, so it saw him miss a couple games in there, but overall, Haynes King's got a good arm. He's still needs to work on, in my opinion, he still needs to work on the timing of the deep balls, because he's got this arm strength to get it there. But if you see some of the games that Georgia Tech played last year where they're pushing the ball down the field, because they like to run a lot of shorter pass plays in there, so when he does have the deep ball, sometimes it's a little late, so the receivers have to slow down a little bit to come back to the ball. But hey, that's not the biggest problem in the world, especially when some of these receivers are wide open. Like, if there's a receiver open, the main goal there is just to not miss them. And they can always slow down. Once you reach your top speed, you can't get any faster than that. So it's always better to just take a little bit off it. But I think that's one thing you could work on there. But size, athletic ability, arm strength. And Georgia Tech, you look at how they did the back half of last season. You see the game against Miami. You see their insanely hard-fought game against Georgia. They have that in them to be one of the better teams in the ACC again. And Haynes King's a big reason why they can be one of those teams. And the top 2 guys we have mentioned before when we did the top 10 quarterback rankings video. Number 2 is Carson Beck, transfer over to Miami. Obviously, he has the shoulder, elbow. I can't remember exactly what is the injury to his throwing arm, and he hasn't been able to really throw this offseason. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. And transferred to Miami from Georgia, had a lot of ups and downs last year. If you talk to a lot of people at this point in time, a year ago, Carson Beck would have been widely considered as the best quarterback in the draft class. But the play, we just didn't see that consistently from him. Like the Alabama game, we had those 4 interceptions, we had the safety in there, the fumble, but then he comes back and has a very good second half recovery. You saw the last half of last season where he started to play a little bit better. You look at the game against Ole Miss where he struggled. There were just some games where he struggled, and you want to see that consistency from him. He doesn't have like an amazing arm. He has a good arm. He's got the size. He's a decent mover. He's probably one of the slower quarterbacks in the ACC out of the 4 guys we've already mentioned. Maybe not Miller Moss, but I think he only had 1 rushing touchdown last year. But we saw the production increase as the season went on. We just need to see that consistency. We saw what happened with Cam Ward at Miami. Now, Cam Ward at Washington State always had the talent. You just need to see that consistency from him there. And I think missing out on Xavier Restrepo and Arroyo at tight end will be big losses for Miami this offseason or this upcoming season. But Carson Beck is an experienced quarterback, and Miami is a good football team. He could have a very nice season this upcoming year for them. And number 1 is obviously Cade Klubnik, who's in the conversation of being the number 1 quarterback in this draft class. No wasted movement with him. The most accurate quarterback in this draft class when it comes to throwing outside of the numbers. He's a good athlete as well. He's not necessarily the biggest dude in the world, but there's no wasted movement in there. You know exactly what you're going to get from Klubnik, and he has been one of the most consistent figures in college football, just gradually working his way up. We saw like 16 touchdowns the year before. We had 30-something touchdowns last year, and this year we're going to have 60 because we're just going to keep multiplying by 2. But Klubnik's as clean as they come in regards of kind of had an underrated season last year because no one really looked at Clemson like that. But this year, expectations will be placed back on Clemson. They have a very good defensive line, which is something that was really important to Dabo Swinney when they won the national championship a few years ago. They have very, very good players, and Cade Klubnik is widely considered to be the best quarterback in college football. As for a draft prospect, what's his ceiling look like? That remains to be seen, but he is definitely the number one quarterback in the ACC for the draft. You're also looking at players like in the honorable mention section, like Hiron Drones from Virginia Tech. You look at Kevin Jennings from SMU, who had a rough game against Penn State. It was kind of one of those things where, you know, in driver's ed, when they tell you to look past the front of the car, but when you first start driving, you look at the nose of the car and you start going like this. That was kind of what Kevin Jennings was like in that game against Penn State, but super talented player. SMU, again, kind of snuck up on people as well, and they went to the ACC title game, unfortunately lost to Clemson in there, but you also got Darian Menso transferred in from Tulane to Duke this offseason, so he could be one player to watch as well. And Max Johnson from North Carolina. Like, there's some good quarterbacks in there, but I think those are the guys that are the main guys at this point in time in regards to the ACC. And then moving on to the next conference, we got the Big 12, and coming in at number 5, I have Avery Johnson from Kansas State, who, out of all these quarterbacks that we've mentioned up to this point, he is the most electric in regards to running the football. He's a very quick quarterback. He runs a lot of quarterback sweeps. They love utilizing his legs, and he exploits defenses because of that. He's not necessarily the biggest guy in the world. He's about 6'3", but he's about a $185, $190, somewhere around there. He's just very lean. He's got a good arm, but that consistency in regards to the passing game kind of waned on him towards the back half of last season, so we just need to see that improvement in there, but all the tools are there. I mean, that's why they basically chose him over Will Howard last offseason, which made Will Howard go to Ohio State, which made Kyle McCord to go to Syracuse. So it was just a big domino effect with that, but Avery Johnson, does have a lot of talent. I really like Chris Kleiman. Kansas State, and a lot of the other teams in the Big 12 are very similar to one another in regards to, you could pretty much name any team in the Big 12 in regards to, like, if you're from 1 till 6, any one of those teams realistically could win the Big 12 this year. But I like Chris Kleiman. DJ Giddens is gone, so it's going to be interesting to see how they navigate around that, how much Avery Johnson's legs are used there. But if he gets more consistent as a passer, he could definitely creep his way up into more conversation. I'm not saying like first round conversation, that's up. Maybe he does, but at this point in time, I've got him at number 5. Number 4, I have Brendan Sorsby from Cincinnati. We're talking about consistency again. Cincinnati was one of those teams that started off really good. They were 5-2 to kick off the year. They had a close loss to West Virginia. They had a close loss to Texas Tech. And then they lost the remaining 5 games of the season. And Brendan Sorsby doesn't have the same numbers that Avery Johnson had last year in regards to the rushing yards, the passing yards, touchdowns, and all that stuff. But Brendan Sorsby can move. Brendan Sorsby is a bigger athlete, 6'3", about 230 pounds again. The issue that I kind of have with him is kind of the same situation we've talked about Jackson Dart before, where he tries to run people over. I'm not comparing Sorsby and Jackson Dart as players, but there are some situations where Sorsby tries to lower his shoulder and drive through a defender, which is not necessarily what you want from your starting quarterback. It's always fun to see that. You want your quarterbacks to be more than just a quarterback. You want to see them be football players, but there's a time and place for everything. And you gotta weigh back a little bit on that, but he throws a really good fade ball. Cincinnati throws a lot of those. He also does some quarterback draw plays in there. He's not afraid to muscle people off from the line of scrimmage in regards to being in the pocket. He navigates the pocket well. He's got a good arm in there. I don't know if you would say it's a better arm, in regards to arm strength, than Avery Johnson's, but it's very effective. And when he's able to move out of the pocket, especially when he rolls out to the left, he has a quick release with a sidearm motion when he rolls out to the left. I think Brendan Sorsby is a very good football player, and I'm just intrigued to see how Cincinnati does going into this next season. Again, how they ended last year is not how you ever want to end a season, but hopefully they can rectify some things in there and push on past that. And then number 3 on this list, we've kind of talked about him before, not in this video, but in previous videos. That's Rocco Becht at Iowa State. Not the biggest guy in the world, about 6 foot tall, maybe 210, 215 pounds, but throws one of the prettiest deep balls in all of college football. It's not because he has a massive arm or anything. We compared him to Tyrod Taylor before in regards to the timing of the deep balls. He is very quick when he goes back there, but it's a perfect spiral damn near every single time. But this year, there's going to be a lot of eyes on not just Rocco Becht, but Iowa State as a whole, because Iowa State's coming off their first ever 10-win season in program history. They also lost Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, who was one of 2 teams in college football to have 2,000-yard wide receivers. The other team was Ohio State with Emeka Egbuka and Jeremiah Smith. So these are massive losses. You got Sowell coming in this offseason. You also got Townsend, who had a previous relationship with Rocco Becht. He'll be the Jalen Noel in this offense. He's a return specialist as well, so we'll have to see how that one goes. Offensive line continues to improve. The running back duo of Carson Hansen and Abu Sama is going to be very important as well, and they've got their 2 tight ends returning as well. So, and I think it was also big for Rocco Becht is that he's got a returning offensive coordinator. Moser got put as the offensive coordinator late last offseason because Nate Scheelhaus went over to the Los Angeles Rams. So having Moser back-to-back seasons, not having to transition your offensive coordinator, I know it's not going to change everything drastically, but it is nice to have that consistency in there. But Rocco Becht, I've seen people talk about him being a potential first-round draft pick. I don't personally have that. The thing that I would say with Rocco Becht, who put up really great numbers last year, 3,500 yards, almost 30 touchdowns in there, but there were moments last year where his numbers got better as the game went on. And sometimes that's a good thing, but when you're struggling early on, sometimes not great. You look at games against like Iowa, Texas Tech, Baylor, UCF, like games like that where he's struggling, in Kansas State even. There were games early on where he's struggling, but then he turns it on later. You look at the game against UCF where he had the drive at the end of the game. Like, you love seeing that from your quarterback, but you want to see him play a full game, not just that little bit at the end. But right now, I have him at number 3, but I would not be shocked if people had him higher than this. Number 2, again, Sawyer Robertson from Baylor, who, again, I'm excited to see because people are going to have a lot of eyes on him because he wasn't the starter going into last season. That was Daquan Finn, transferred in from Toledo, got hurt early last season. Sawyer Robertson comes in, has a good game against Air Force. Finn gets benched, and Sawyer Robertson leads this insane end of season run where Baylor wins like their last 6 or 7 games. They go to the bowl game against LSU. He throws a pick 6, but it bounced off the running back's face mask, so we can't really count that in there. But Sawyer Robertson throws a very, very good football. He's a former baseball player, so we see a lot of the sidearm motions in there. He's got good size. He's got good athleticism as well. Throws a good fade ball like we talked about with Sorsby before. And if him and Baylor are able to reach the levels and continue what they saw at the end of last year, we saw that winning streak at the end of the year, minus the bowl game, obviously. But if they're able to carry that momentum into this season, they could be one of the front runners for the Big 12. And as we talked about before with Avery Johnson, and you can talk the same thing with Rocco Becht, in regards to those types of teams, like you're looking at Kansas State, Baylor, Iowa State, you could talk about Utah in there as well. You could talk about, there are other teams there. Well, the team that I'm going to talk about next, but we already know who. That's Sam Leavitt at number 1. And Arizona State is obviously another team that you can mention. And they're like, all these teams kind of a realistic shot at winning the Big 12 this year. And it's kind of funny to see how the Big 12 will operate this upcoming season. Hell, Oklahoma State went to the Big 12 championship game 2 years ago, and last year they went 3-9 and went 0-9 in conference play. So anything can happen in this insane conference. So we'll have to wait and see. But Sam Leavitt talked about not surprising people this year. Sam Leavitt was one of those guys, and Arizona State is a team that nobody really was looking at until about the midway point of the season. I brought this up in the last video, whereas the Kansas State game, where Desmond Howard said, why are we talking about this game? That's where people kind of started paying attention to the Sam Leavitt, Cam Scattaboo, Kenny Dillingham, and all the things that they had there. And Scattaboo being gone is going to be massive for Arizona State, but Jordan Tyson returning as one of the best receivers in college football, which we did not see in not just the Big 12 championship, we also didn't see him in the college football playoff game against Texas. And Sam Leavitt makes very little mistakes. He does not turn the ball over. He does not put the ball in harm's way, rarely ever. We brought up the word gamer before. That's kind of what I would describe Sam Leavitt as well. He's not afraid to tuck the ball and run. We saw him make big plays on the ground against Texas, where the pocket kind of breaks down around him. He's able to break off big gains on the ground and kind of hold Arizona State in there, even though most people, kind of including myself, were like, okay, this is going to be a little bit overmatched. This team was the preseason favorite to finish last in the conference, and now they're not only dominating Iowa State in the Big 12 championship game, but have a chance to beat Texas and go to overtime against them, and Sam Leavitt being a big reason why. It's going to be fun to see what Sam Leavitt does this year. I'm personally really excited to see what he does because he's a guy that could creep in to that first round conversation when it's all said and done. Moving on to the Big 10. Oh, I guess I should talk about honorable mentions. Jalen Daniels from Kansas is definitely one in there. Josh Hoover from TCU. We saw him put up great numbers last year. Baron Morton, from Texas Tech is also in that conversation. And you could throw out like Caden Salter in there as well if he wins the Colorado starting job. Maybe he's a guy we'll start talking about a little bit more, but those are the main guys that I would look at for the Big 12 at this point in time. And moving on to the Big 10, at number 5, I have Luke Altmaier from Illinois. We saw him at Ole Miss before, but he was mostly used as a backup to Matt Corral and Jackson Dart there. But going up to Illinois, we've seen improvement year on and year on from him. And you saw Illinois be one of the better teams in the Big Ten this past season, where they're challenging teams. And yes, they had that weird game against Purdue where Purdue decided randomly, oh, we're going to wake up now and actually play a football game and actually act like a real Big Ten FBS level football team. And they just happened to do that against Illinois. But there's a lot of expectations placed on Illinois. A lot of people out there are saying that Illinois is this year's Indiana in regards to a team that could surprise everybody or is a lot better than what we expected going into the season. And Luke Altmaier's got a good arm. He's not afraid to run, even though he's not necessarily the biggest guy. He's about 6'2", probably 210 in there, a little bit leaner than some of the other quarterbacks we've talked about before. One thing that it doesn't bother me, but something that is kind of interesting is Luke Altmaier. Watch this when you watch him back. He pats the ball a lot. When he drops back, there's at least one pat in there when he's in his drop back. But Luke Altmaier is a very good quarterback, and I'm excited to see what him and Illinois do. And Brett Bielema got a lot of friends in the NFL, so the people like those types of guys. I mean, we saw J.J. McCarthy with Jim Harbaugh before, so hey, maybe that could boost him up as well. But Luke Altmaier comes in at number 5. Number 4, it's Mark Gronowski from Iowa, one of the most decorated quarterbacks in FCS history. Like, he has 49 career wins to his name, 49-6 as a starter at South Dakota State, which is the most all-time for South Dakota in FCS history. You have 2 national championships in there. He was the national championship player of the game both times, was an FCS Heisman winner, the Walter Payton Award at the FCS level as well. And if you look at if you look at South Dakota State, how many national championships they had before Mark Gronowski got there was 0. How many conference championships did they have before he got there? I believe it was 6. And they have, or not before he got there, they had 2 before he got there. They now have 6. And out of the 5 years he was at South Dakota State, the only year they did not win a conference title was ironically and coincidentally the year he was hurt coming off a torn ACL. He was starting as a freshman there at South Dakota State when they had the weird FCS spring schedule in there. His first game was at UNI, game off with a walk-off touchdown, and he was the 3rd string quarterback going in and then just carried South Dakota State along the way. And now you have 2 national championships in there. You have a Heisman Trophy in there for the FCS level, Walter Payton Award. We're trying to connect here. And he did have some opportunities to go to the NFL this offseason. He had an invite to the Combine, but talking to Tucker Kraft of the Green Bay Packers, talking about Tim Lester and what this offense can be, Mark Gronowski can push the ball down the field, and it's always kind of hard to scout players that play for South Dakota, quarterbacks that play for South Dakota State and North Dakota State, because they are so dominant, because a lot of they dominate the run games a lot. Like, you look at some of the great players that South Dakota State's had over this past couple years, and a lot of their players are open. So they push the ball down the field a lot at South Dakota State. I'm intrigued to see how he works the middle of the field, while at Iowa, we've seen him do some rollout plays in some of the clips that have been coming out recently, but he's not afraid to tug it around. He's 6'3", about 235 pounds. And if there's going to be a quarterback that helps turn around this Iowa offense to make it at least, I don't even know what the word you want to call it, just like respectable. It doesn't need to be elite, but respectable. Mark Gronowski would be that guy. Cade McNamara, when he came in, and you could go back to the videos we talked about Cade McNamara when he first came to Iowa, he's not a guy you attach the trailer to. He's the trailer. You need to pull him on. He's just going to do things that are not going to lose you football games too often. That's what happened at Michigan. That's why they ended up going with J.J. McCarthy and saying, hey, you need to transfer out. Mark Gronowski is the tractor. And if anybody's going to do that at Iowa, it's Mark Gronowski. He's got the arm, the mobility, the size, leadership, experience, all that great stuff. And he comes in at number 4 on this list. Number 3 on this list is Nico Iamaleava from UCLA, which is still kind of feels weird to say that, but the former 5-star Josh Heupel's offense at Tennessee did not really have the statistical year that we were all expecting from him. If you look at some of the quarterbacks that Josh Heupel has had, and Hendon Hooker and Joe Milton, before they got to Tennessee, were they really considered top high-value draft picks, or guys you could look at and go, ooh, okay, there's something there? Like when Joe Milton was at Michigan, no one was really thinking that. When Hendon Hooker was at Virginia Tech, no one was really thinking that. I mean, Hendon Hooker was initially the backup at Tennessee to Joe Milton, but both these guys, like Hendon Hooker, turned into a Heisman Trophy candidate. Obviously, didn't end up going to New York for the ceremony because he tore his ACL, which sucked. But Joe Milton put up highlight-worthy plays while at Tennessee, just never had that consistency. So with Nico being the 5-star recruit that he was, having the talent that he had, having the size, 6'6", 185 pounds, a little bit, again, we talk about leaner prospects, he is that, and having the good mobility in there. And we were expecting him to put up like these astronomical numbers. We saw Hendon Hooker put up great numbers, Joe Milton, and we just didn't get that. 18 touchdowns, 5 interceptions this past season. If you look at like games against Chattanooga, against Vanderbilt, and UTEP, like out of all the games, 11 of his 18 touchdowns came in those 3 games. I don't think he had any more games where he had more than 2 passing touchdowns in a game. So we're just going to need to see that at UCLA. And going to UCLA does scare me, I'm not going to lie, because they're not really known for offensive firepower, but bringing in Tino Sinceri from Indiana, he was the co-offensive coordinator there, obviously he's a former quarterback in his own right at Pitt, bringing in whatever he could bring in from Indiana would be awesome for Nico in this new team. Eric Bieniemy obviously got fired in December last year. He's now with the Chicago Bears, I think. But Nico has all the skill set there. He has all the tools there. We just didn't see it at a very high level at Tennessee, which is like, if you're not going to do it in a very, 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 arguably the most quarterback-friendly offense in college football, if you're not going to do it there, it kind of scares me everywhere else. But I like that they brought in Tino Sinceri. I'm intrigued to see what UCLA does. As you say, we're not a good football team last year. He's an upgrade on Ethan Garber's obviously, but I just need to see it. But he definitely comes in at number 3 on here. And the top 2 guys on this list at number 2, we have Fernando Mendoza from Indiana, obviously transferred in from Cal. We've talked about him before. Explosive arm, good size, awesome offense to watch him. We talked about Tino Sinceri leaving, but having those guys at Indiana, having the eyes now on them, you're not going to surprise anybody this year. He has more talent than Curtis Rourke. So if he's able to figure out everything that Indiana can do, and we saw that in spurts at Cal. We saw him break off some 20-yard gains on the ground as well, but just Cal is a very blasé offense, don't really care about their football program in general. So we didn't get to see like a ton of like, I don't really know what you want to call it, but you could see the pop there. You could see the potential there. And now he's at Indiana with Kurt Cignetti. I'm really excited to see what he can do there, especially with Elijah Surratt still being there. That is awesome. So I'm excited to see what those two do. And number 1 is Drew Aller. Penn State is one of the favorites, if not the favorite, to win the national championship this year. They brought back damn near everybody minus Tyler Warren on the opposite side of the ball. They brought in Pena from Syracuse to give Drew Aller another weapon on the outside with Liam Clifford. So to give him another option there, you got your 2 running backs back. Your offensive line is still intact there. Like, if Penn State's going to get anywhere, it's because Drew Aller is that quarterback that we all think he can be. He's got the most talent in regards to a physical skill set out of every other quarterback in college football. He's got the size, 6'5", 240 pounds. He's got the strongest arm in college football. He's very raw. We saw him massive improvement from the year before to last year, but in games like Notre Dame, where you see the pressure kind of come in on him, and he gets a little sloppy with the footwork. The footwork can be improved. The things that he's struggling with can be improved. So if he's able to refine all of that stuff and improve it on this year, there's no reason why Penn State shouldn't get over the hump and be one of the national favorites, or national championship favorites, or national championship the favorite, not one of the favorites, maybe the favorite going in. But I'm really excited to see what Drew Aller does. And he's also not an insane athlete, but he's not afraid to pick up gains on the ground when he needs to. When he has a firm base, he can deliver the ball down the field. He is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. The footwork definitely needs to improve, but I like where Drew Aller is. And in regards to honorable mentions, Aiden Childs from Michigan State was someone I almost put in here. In regards to a natural skill set, Aiden Childs is one of the most naturally talented quarterbacks in the Big Ten. But again, we talk about consistency. There were some games where he would look like the guy that was the big-time recruit over at Oregon State, following Jonathan Smith over to Michigan State, but then we'd have a massive turnover flaw. They had 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. If he's able to rectify that, then he could be in the top 5 in regards to quarterback in the Big Ten in regards to the NFL draft. And Dante Moore from Oregon is another interesting one. We saw him at UCLA. We haven't seen him in a while now. He was split time with Ethan Garbers there, had a little bit of an interception problem at UCLA, but you look at what he could do with this Oregon offense. He could really be special this year, especially learning under someone who is as experienced or was as experienced as Dylan Gabriel. I think that can only help. And now Evan Stewart being out is a massive blow for them. So we're going to see how they bounce back from that. But Oregon's going to be one of the best teams in college football again. And Dante Moore is a very exciting player to watch going into this season. And the final conference here is the SEC. Obviously, no Arch Manning in here. Spoiler, I'm just going to take him out for the time being, but we're going to mention him, obviously, because he's Arch Manning. Everybody wants to talk about Arch Manning, but number 5 on this list, I kind of struggle between 4 and 5, but number 5, I have Marcel Reed from Texas A&M, who replaced Connor Wegman early last season. They kind of went back and forth for a little bit, and we saw Wegman start in the game against LSU, who went, I think, 6 for 18 or something like that. And then Marcel Reed comes in. Yes, he only completes 2 passes, goes 2 for 2, but he has 70 yards. And he also has 60-plus rushing yards with 3 touchdowns in there, and he was really the reason. Plus, Garrett Nussmeier kind of shutting off his controller, I guess you could say, definitely helped Texas A&M come around on that. But Marcel Reed, who had a little press conference, had a little joke the other day about how he's not a passer or something like that, trying to get out in front of it and stuff, but he's got talent. He's not the biggest dude in the world. He's about 6 foot, maybe 200 pounds, around 200 pounds. He's got a good arm. It's just not consistent there yet, but he's a great athlete. And Texas A&M arguably has the best running back room in the SEC and the best offensive line. And I said arguably. I'm not saying definitively, but they have one of the best units at both areas, and Marcel Reed will definitely benefit from that. Like, Connor Wegman was considered a top prospect going into last season. He only played a few games the season prior before he had to go out with a foot injury, and Marcel Reed was able to supplant him thanks to an injury also to Wegman, but he was able to supplant him, take the starting job, and go into this season as a starter, as one of the more talented quarterbacks in the SEC. And I'm excited to see what he does. I am really excited to see what he does there. But number 4, I have Taylon Green from Arkansas, who I mentioned in the previous video as well. But Taylon Green's 6'6", like we talked about before, a few 6'6" quarterbacks in this draft class, but like we brought up before, a leaner prospect. He does a lot of quarterback sweeps. He gets out of pressure really, really well. Like, he's able to duck around defenders, but there are some times where he tries to do a little too much. It was there. I think it was the game again. I can't remember what game it was. Hold on. I gotta look at what was the game. There was a specific game in there that I'm trying to remember. Oh, Mississippi State. The line of scrimmage at the 18-yard line. And it's 4th and 2, so you got to keep the play alive and anything. But he goes all the way back to the 40-yard line. Like, you cannot do that at the next level and just expect to make a play. You can do that against Mississippi State. He had a great running play against Arkansas Pine Bluff as well, where he went to the right and cut all the way back to the left. I can't remember if he scored or got tackled at the 1-yard line or something, but he is a great, great athlete. We saw the tiny spurts at Boise State, but this past year we saw him as getting more consistent as a passer. He had over 3,000 yards passing. I think he had 15 touchdowns or something like that last year. And he's, again, good, long striding athlete. It's just sometimes he tries to do too much. And when you're an athlete as good as Taylon Green, it's hard not to just like dumb it down. But the size, arm talent, and the athletic ability, if he's just able to refine that and not try to do too much, then he could definitely be one of the quarterbacks we're talking about in the later rounds of next year's draft class. And number 3 on this list is John Mateer, which is still kind of feels weird to say Oklahoma and Texas in the SEC, but John Mateer transferred from Washington State, following his offensive coordinator there. This is a big year for Oklahoma. They weren't in the preseason polls in the top 25 for the first time I think I saw since 1999. But John Mateer, we brought up the word gamer. That's John Mateer. Of all the guys I've said gamer for, that's John Mateer. He just wants to win games. He just wants to make plays and win games. We compared him to Cam Ward. We've compared him to Baker Mayfield as well. Like, there was a play, I think it was against San Jose State, where he rolled out to his left, gets the defender to commit, and then just like shot puts it up, up to the receiver in the end zone. He has a quick release, especially when he rolls out to his left, like we brought up before. And if he's able to ball out of Oklahoma, give them that quarterback they were desperately wanting from Jackson Arnold, who transferred obviously to Auburn, if he's able to be anything that we saw at Washington State, then this could be a very, very exciting team and a very, very exciting player in John Mateer, who could definitely be in that conversation for do we say first round right now? Conversation, at least. There's definitely going to be conversations, but number 2 is Lenora Sellers, the most athletically gifted quarterback in this draft class. 6'3", 245 pounds, 19 years old. Very raw. Very, very raw. But we get one of these quarterbacks every year, but he's got a great arm. He forces so many missed tackles out there. He's impossible to bring down in the pocket. The way he's able to evade sack artists in the backfield and get the ball out or make plays with his legs, it's unrivaled pretty much out of every other quarterback in college football. And doing it at South Carolina with Shane Beamer is exciting to see. And if he's able to refine everything, because there are sometimes the ball sails on him a little bit. He has somewhat of a fumbling issue at this point in time, but those are things that can get improved upon. And if he's able to do that, he could very well be the first overall pick in the draft. Yeah, I'm not saying first round conversation. That part where I'm pretty set on. First overall pick conversation is what we're having with Lenora Sellers. If he's able to refine everything that we can clearly see that he has, if he's able to be the best version of that, no reason why he can't be the first overall pick. And numbered 1 is Garrett Nussmeier, who I've multiple times considered to be the best quarterback in this draft class. He's not necessarily the biggest dude in the world. He's 6'2", 200 pounds. He's a natural gunslinger. He's not the greatest athlete in the world, but I didn't think I'd say this word as much as I have, but there's a lot of quarterbacks that fit this category, and that's gamer. Garrett Nussmeier is, again, not the greatest athlete in the world. Compared to the likes of the guys we brought before, he's not going to run a very fast 40. But he is able to pick up, you look at the game against Oklahoma, where he's out to the left, rolls all the way back to his right and picks up a first down, dives for the first down. We saw him pick up a 4th down conversion, I believe, against Ole Miss, where their backs are against their own end zone. He is not afraid to push the ball down the field, and sometimes he gets a little wayward. We talked about that before with the Texas A&M game. If he's able to not do that as much and just force the issue. Now, I don't have a problem with interceptions, like I talked about in the quarterback ranking video, if you're able to double your touchdowns and put up like good numbers touchdown-wise, or what your interceptions actually look like than just looking at the number itself. And there were some times where you go like, oh, that's unfortunate, but he does need to tone down on that a little bit, but he's so anticipatory when he drops back to pass. We talked about it before in regards to like, when he lets go of the ball, sometimes the receiver is still covered by the defender, and he throws them open. He's one of the best, if not the best quarterback in this draft class at doing that. And he's another guy, like Aller, like Sellers, that you could talk about realistically being the first overall pick in the draft. Klubnik, you can have that conversation if you want to, but I think those three guys are so gifted and have higher ceilings in my mind. But obviously my opinion's not... It's not, what do you call it? It's not finite. I mean, it's subject to change, obviously. I'm not just sitting here going like, this is what it is now, and this is what it's going to be in April. That's not what I'm saying, but that is my, oh wait, we got to do honorable mention section. Jackson Arnold was somebody I had in the honorable mention. Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt is another guy I had on the honorable mention section as well, but yeah, those are my quarterbacks, my top 5 quarterbacks in each Power 4 conference going into this college football season. The number 1 guy in each conference, Cade Klubnik in the ACC. Big 12, we have Sam Leavitt from Arizona State, Drew Aller in the Big 10, and we have Garrett Nussmeier in the SEC. But hey, those guys in second place, we're looking at Mendoza, we're looking at Sellers, we're looking at Robertson, Beck. Like, these guys are also fine in their own rights as well. It's a shame that, we all kind of knew it. It was kind of a feeling in all of our guts that Arch Manning was going to stay back in Texas for another year, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that's all I've got for you today on this new video of the Logan Blackman Show. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to leave a comment again down below on how you feel about each conference. If there's somebody you would want to include, but I didn't include or don't feel like somebody should be in there, let me know down in the comment section below. Also, make sure to check out all the links in the description. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. If you did not enjoy it, I sincerely apologize. I will try to be better next time. And with that, I've been Logan Blackman, and I will see you guys later. Peace.